over it. Like once I got to that point where they admitted that they were discriminating and were like, yeah, no, we have a filter. It was just like, okay, it's a wrap. Like all those hopes and dreams I had of fairness and equality just went right out the window.
I don't know if I would encourage you not to be who you are.
I don't know, man. Look, I don't know if I ever told you this story. So I guess it's a good outro. I had a meeting over the phone with the creative and inclusion executive at a cable network. I would damn near want to out them, but I feel like we're going to get a show on there. So I'm not going to say who it is. She was a sister. She is a sister. And she spent the entire meeting chastising me and questioning my qualifications, questioning as to, for instance, I gave her an example of there's about 20 agencies that you guys work with. And, for diversity and inclusion purposes, I feel like you guys need to broaden that scope because I am a Black-owned agency. And I have talented writers who I could be staffing on your shows and talented actors that could be appearing in your shows. And she said, well, if we're working with 20 agencies, why should you be number 21? Who do you have? And so I rattled off my 6 top people who some were series regulars. One is an up and coming pop star who has literally worked with everyone. They request her to be in their videos. And she told me, oh, well, that's nice of them to stay with you when you're so small. Most would have gone on to a bigger agency.
What is that all about?
That's her job. And so that's what I'm learning is that a lot of these studios have these Clarence Thomases in these diversity and inclusion positions to continue to, prevent diversity and inclusion.
I could talk a little more shit about this than you can. So what is her purpose?
To collect a check. That's her purpose.
There's more to it than that. It sounds like one of these people who has made it and they are in this position where they can talk down to other Black people when it's like, well, maybe you were just very fortunate or lucky to get to where you were. But secondly, it's like, what is she doing that to then go and tell a story to her colleagues? Like, yeah, she's like, I don't automatically defer to other Black people. And I told her, what is the purpose? Like, what does she get out of treating you like that? I don't fucking get it. It's some sadistic bullshit.
She felt really good about herself that day. Like I just said, one day we're going to have a script in there and we're going to lock in a deal. And when we do that, I'm going to request that she's at the meeting. It's just like I talked to another manager who the same thing happened to him at a network. And the executive there was a Black woman and they wouldn't push through this, their client's completed documentary. And so they kept trying, they wouldn't push it through. And so they had no choice but to go partner with an outside distribution company. That distribution company ended up getting it in at that network anyway. And so when it was done, the creator of that project wanted to take that executive out because they still wanted to build that relationship. They didn't want to have to go sacrifice, more points off of, their earnings to keep going through this third party distributor, right, to get in. And so they said, well, hey, I'm going to be in town. Why don't we have drinks? Why don't we have dinner? And that executive said, no, you're just trying to have dinner with me to throw it in my face. And she said, no, I'm trying to have dinner with you because I have other projects and I want to do business with you.
What is wrong with people, man? People just lost their fucking minds. They're going crazy. I can't imagine a scenario where I would talk to somebody like that and not be joking. I talk shit with my friends and we joke around but it's like we're doing it because we're having fun with each other. It's like we wouldn't talk to each other like that seriously, let alone professionally. Yeah. This town has lost its fucking mind, or did it even have it to begin with? Shit.
But I feel like, in that woman's response, she told on herself, you know what I'm saying? I think she knows she deliberately blocked that project. And then by seeing them be able to get that project through and get it cleared and get paid for it, now she's kind of in a messed up situation because if they had been me, those emails would have come to light. You know what I'm saying? If it had been me, I'd be like, look, we tried to give this thing to you 6 months ago, but this person said no. So they really could have, that's an EO anyway. That's an EO complaint / whatever. But they're nicer than me. Because I'd be like, you don't need this job. You're not being effective, period. Your job is to bring in content and you failed. You failed so miserably that we had to go somewhere else and bring it in under another person. So if the end result was your network was going to buy it anyway, yeah, we're going to show negligence on the part of you, and you can go ahead and cut us another check. See, that's me. That's why I can't go back to law school. See, I get in trouble. Because I wanted to talk about vicarious liability today because folks don't understand it, but I think I'll probably just write a blog about it later.
Vicarious liability, what is that?
Yeah, it's a thing under like negligence. It's a tort. It's a civil lawsuit situation where this is why people don't understand why Hollywood specifically, and really your jobs, are struggling with letting you back in. Because one could use vicarious liability to say, well, say for instance, say we found out patient zero was a FedEx worker. And FedEx had this whole, actually Amazon would probably be the better model because Amazon ain't letting nobody off work. So Amazon knew their people were sick, but they still sent them out delivering packages. And say someone ended up spreading this virus to other places. And if you could trace it back to Amazon as like patient zero, Amazon is vicariously liable because they're the employer and they are responsible for that employee while that employee is on the clock. So it's no different than like, you know, if you get into an accident where a truck has hit you while it's on the clock, you can go after that company rather than the driver because the driver's on the employee. And so the problem you're having is that Hollywood had a lot of lawsuits. As soon as the government started to do the quarantine and force production to shut down, there were folks who went and filed what I consider to be frivolous lawsuits saying, you have no right to stop me from producing my movie. But what they did is they know that it's going to be an automatic settlement check. They're just going to get some money. Just like how LA just throws money at the family after they shoot and kill your child, right? Here you go, here's some money, go away. Okay, I feel better now, right? So it was going to be that type of situation. And so with this, because they can't really figure out one, they don't even really know how this thing spreads. We went from it's airborne and water droplets to, oh, well, you can't catch it in the air. But I'm like, well, but it's airborne and water droplets. Like, how can you not? To now we've got plexiglass that's supposed to apparently stop the airborne transmission of this virus, right? You go into the grocery store, please stay behind the plexiglass. I'm like, that's not how this works. But you have folks that may be asymptomatic carriers. We're talking about the second wave. And so they can go on set and be negative. And then 2 weeks later, your set has a whole bunch of corona. You're also dealing with the fact that like Tyler Perry is opening himself to a monster of lawsuits because he is contemplating letting his crew back on the lot, testing them, and then those that are negative will go to work and they will not be allowed to leave. They will have to live there on the base. Can you say rape? Can you say sexual harassment? Because I can. Like, it just sounds like a bad idea.
I can say all of those things.
Like, can you talk about what happens when men get drunk and see a pretty girl after hours?
I've seen
that's what I'm saying. Like, so then I'm like,
pretty women act up when they get drunk too.
That too, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you got Cardi B admitting she used to drug and rape folks and rob them. Holy so that's America's sweetheart. Look at that. So vicarious liability. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. And that's on the extreme side. It's mostly just folks getting sick and then filing workman's comp. But you know me, I gotta take it there. So I grew up watching Unsolved Mysteries and like 2020, you know what I'm saying? Like, and America's Most Wanted. Like when people, somebody did a meme about that once. They were like, how come, 80s babies are this way? And I'm like, because we grew up watching like murder after like, what was that show with the Steve Urkel? Family Matters? Like after Family Matters went off, like the most awful things were on TV on Friday nights.